You're listening to the Paranormal Peeps on the Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of indie podcasts with the Darkcast Network.
We have cookies. Between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living, join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Peeps Podcast Halloween edition.
Yay! Spooky season!
Spooky season.
Yeah.
The end of spooky season.
Still.
Right?
Well, I mean, for some, spooky season is year-round.
Yeah.
For some, it begins in July.
Or never.
And for others, it's just October.
Yeah, and some for the rest, for a lot of people, it's just the 31st.
Yeah, very true.
So we have just Jamie and Josh today.
Yeah, Lisa's unavailable, which, you know, that happens.
Yeah, it's sad. Hopefully she can be back for the next episode.
Yeah, hopefully so.
So we are going to talk Halloween traditions today.
Yes.
Some things we don't do anymore, and some of them we still do, but not nearly to the insanity that it is, or was. Yeah. Like, they've kind of morphed over the years into things that are a bit more mild than they were back in the day. Yep.
Which you'll hear all about.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do still today, but where they came from.
Yeah. Where they originated and how they've evolved.
Yeah. But
first, we went to
Hee Haw Farms.
Yeah. So Josh and I ran up there really quick. So it's like a pumpkin, they sell pumpkins up there. They have like animals that you can pet. It's really geared, I think, more towards little ones, younger kids.
Definitely the 13 and under crowd, and more likely the
10 and under. But it was still really nice. The atmosphere is really nice. The people are so nice. They have a little general store. Really all they sell in there, though, is some kettle corn, some caramel apples, and just candy. And that's it.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked because it's a decent size barn. It's not huge.
Yeah.
But I was kind of, I thought they would have a little bit more in there, but they don't, but that's okay. They have some little wood photo opportunities, like cardboard or wood board cutouts that have been painted for, for kids.
Stick your face through.
Yeah. That are really cute. They have little games and stuff for the kids.
A lot of games, actually.
Yeah. Slides, games. They have a little zip line. What else did they have? They had a couple food booths.
They had a couple food booths. They had frisbee toss. They had tic-tac-toe, cornhole, ladder golf.
Yeah, but the food booths.
Oh, the food booths. Yeah, they had two.
They had two that we saw. And like I said, this isn't a really big thing, but it's you go out and you participate and you're supporting. The money goes to the farm, which support local, right?
Yep, support local.
Always a really good thing. But yeah, the food, we got some little mini donuts, and I think we each got a can of soda.
Yep.
And the cans of soda, they're only charging $1.50, which is really great.
Yeah.
Because a lot of places are depending on where you go, $2, $3.
And up.
And up. So the prices, and I think pumpkins there are 40 cents a pound.
Yep.
But they got a lot of nice looking pumpkins. I didn't see one there that looked not nice.
Yeah, they were all very nice.
They're all very healthy, very nice pumpkins.
Yeah. And so Hee Haw Farms is located in Pleasant Grove.
Mm-hmm. In Utah, yeah.
In Utah. So if you guys are local inside of Utah, go check it out.
Yep.
So, but that brings up one of the traditions that a lot of people do during this time of year, during spooky season, is they go to these pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and some places do them up really well, like Green Bluff.
Oh, yeah, in Washington State.
I mean, there's at least back when we were living there was 8 or 9 farms that would do this,
mm-hmm.
and they would do it up huge. There'd be huge wagon rides, games. Some places, I mean, it looked like a carnival.
Yeah, live music, all of it.
Vendors, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and in the barns, they were selling pies, homemade pies that were amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like a long line for those pies.
But it's a fun tradition I think that people go into. Is that, let us know if that is one of the things that you guys enjoy doing, is going to these corn mazes and events like that where you can pick your own pumpkins. So if we're going to start talking about Halloween, we should probably just talk a little bit about where it comes from.
Of course.
Halloween can be traced back to the Roman Catholics who celebrated All Hallows Eve, or Hallowmas. Hallowmas, the day before All Saints' Day, which is celebrated November 1st. Or back to the Celts who celebrated Samhain, when souls of the dead would return to earth for one night a year.
Yeah.
So that's where we get, I mean, that's kind of where it's traced back to. It's our more ancient startings.
Wasn't it linked to like pagan stuff too, though?
Well, if you're looking at the Celts, that would be considered pagan.
Sure. But what I've heard that that's kind of where its origin, its origins are.
Yeah, I think it depends on which level of tradition that you're following, where it comes from.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
So one of the earliest traditions that they had was something called soul cakes. What are soul cakes?
So they're considered hollowed offerings for hungry ghosts.
That's kind of cool and spooky in the same boat, right?
It's kind of like the perfect little package. So for Halloween, even at its most lighthearted, it's, believe that Halloween really, if it had a soul, it would be very chilly.
Right.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So All Hallows Eve belongs to the Lord of Death, who masters us all in the end, is what this says.
Wow, that's a
really dark look on that.
There's a very dark look on that.
Personally, for me, I don't look at it that way, but okay. So, and then it goes on to say that we may cope with our servitude by laughing at death, fearing it, respecting it, or in our time-honored tradition, what we've always known, even, from a young age, is throwing sweets at it.
Right? Got to feed death.
Yes. Feed it, tooth-rotting sugar.
Feed it a Snickers bar. Hungry? Why wait?
So it says today, we basically tame the malevolent spirits, the ones in costume, so all the kids dressed up out there.
Right.
As well as those on scene with Reese's Pieces, Tootsie Rolls,
Stuff.
Yeah. So modern demons aren't too picky and they know how to negotiate a plastic wrapper. But it says here that long ago, at the beginning of the Christian era in Britain, Druidic rites were a fresh and vivid memory. So 4 times a year, bonfires banished the ill-tempered spirits that were hiding in the night. So 4 times a year.
Every season.
The Halloween or Samhain fires might have been a way of whistling in the dark, language in the face of the oncoming cold and scarcity.
Yeah. Scarcity, as in stuff's going to be a lot less because, stuff stopped growing.
Okay, so for those of you wondering, Samhain was a festival of the dying sun god. So, and its dark power stayed, potent even as the old ways faded. So Samhain became All Souls Eve and All Souls Day. It's the practice of gathering around a bonfire. But as that waned, we don't do that anymore.
We do not.
I mean, there may be people out there that do.
Right.
I don't know any.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody do it. But then again, we live in the city, so bonfires are pretty much outlawed.
Yeah. So kind of, they used to do that more in the old days, but kind of as those bonfires waned and they kind of got away from that. Instead, night visitors of the Dark Ages actually began to venture abroad, and they would go house to house. And if they were lucky, they would be met at the doorstep with a plate of sweet and steaming soul cakes.
Yum.
I mean, cold, chilly night, hot, steamy plate of soul cakes,
Yeah, that kind of sounds good.
It kind of sounds good, right? But the explanations of the origins of where the soul cake came from and where it started, it varies. So some say that cakes were baked for the bonfires and that they were a lottery. Pick the bunt cake and you get to be the human sacrifice that endures good crops next year.
So does that mean you get to be tossed on the fire, or was it just ceremoniously?
I think it's ceremoniously.
You won and you get to die. Congratulations.
Right? Or, soul cakes may have been tossed around in the era to appease evil spirits condemned to wander in animal form.
Ooh, that's actually kind of spooky.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you get a mental picture of it,
Yeah,
it could be quite creepy, right?
Yeah.
Depend on your imagination. But by the 8th century, soul cakes had been sanctified and civilized. So, already we're changing.
Right? Especially when you use the word sanctified.
Yep. They used them to pay the beggars who came around on All Souls Eve. And in doing so, they would offer to say prayers for the families departed.
That's a kind of a neat way. Like, one, you feed the homeless.
Yeah. Yeah.
And two, you're offering prayers for the homeless's families,
Yeah.
And offering them some religious comfort.
Right. So they looked at it as one cake given, one soul saved.
That's really kind of cool.
That's how they looked at it. So, in other places, they were given to the costume entertainers known as mummers. And they made their rounds at Halloween time. And then today's trick-or-treaters are thought to be their descendants.
Ooh.
That's how they're thought of. So that's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Hold on. So it seems like soul cakes are, and have been kind of various in form as well as in their purpose. So there's like dozens of recipes. Some are leavened and rising, others flat and dense as tombstones. Some are really cakey and some are more like a biscuit.
Well, yeah, because if you've ever had unleavened bread,
Mm-hmm.
it is
Dry.
almost like a cracker.
Yeah. Yeah. Some have ginger, some have saffron. So, I mean, over the decades and the years and whatnot, people have kind of adapted them and added and taken away and, like all recipes, right?
Right.
They kind of go through, there's many varieties. Some are square, some are oval, some are round, some are marked with a cross. And that's kind of the thing about myths, the fact that there's never a single right answer. But it's still, even though there isn't a single right answer, it doesn't diminish their power.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah. So
I think one year we should make soul cakes.
I think that would be, had I really thought about it ahead of time,
Yeah.
I could have done that.
For the cookie of the episode.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a cookie, but
Oh, it's still a sweet treat, right?
yes, it is.
Cookies are sweet. These would have been sweet.
The interesting thing about soul cakes is that's really the precursor to trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
So
Kind of morphed,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Soul cakes kind of morphed into what we know today as like candy.
Yeah.
The giving of candy to appease the little demons that come to your door dressed up.
Yes. But what's interesting is like a lot of times they had like honey and later sugar in these treats, and so they were very sweet.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of instinctively want to prepare our bodies for the winter by eating sweets and candy.
Junk.
Junk. Exactly.
Good junk.
Very good junk. So along with the soul cakes, they also had crude jellies, sweetmeats, and even candies. And people would either put on a mask or blacken their faces to placate evil spirits, which is a practice that started to see a resurgence in Scotland in 1895. When adults masquerading around carrying lanterns of hollowed-out turnips would go door to door, guising or begging for cakes and fruits. By 1911, the guising had reached North America, although it was seemingly a rare occurrence largely in the Irish and Scottish neighborhoods.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. It actually wasn't until 1934 that guising became known as trick-or-treating. So before, they're like, you're just a beggar going around begging for candies and treats.
Right.
And then we said, well, I'll just call it trick-or-treating.
Doesn't sound as bad.
No, it does not sound as bad. But it actually stalled out during World War II because of the rationing of sugar.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. But in 1948, it was common enough phenomenon that Jack Benny, who was a famous comedian at the time, he was doing jokes about it on his popular TV or radio show. Mm-hmm. And then in 1951, Charles Schulz, who was the creator of Peanuts, actually had his gang wandering door to door wearing the ghostly sheets and witches' hats.
Cool.
Which, if you remember, Charlie Brown always had like 9 holes
in
cut
his
into
ghost,
a sheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I had a hard time with the scissors.
Yeah.
So Halloween was a thing people knew about, but before 1950s, trick-or-treating simply wasn't a part of most people's Halloween celebrations.
Right.
When the diminutive ghouls and ghosts did start showing up on people's doorsteps, though, only sweets would placate them. Otherwise, You got egged, teepeed, or worse.
Worse, huh?
Worse. And that is something we'll get into.
Yeah, we're going to get into the worse.
Yes, we will. In the 1950s, candy companies started realizing this trick-or-treat thing might have a huge impact for them. And so there was a rise in advertisements talking about Halloween, and candy companies started marketing candy directly to moms. The message was, if you buy the right candy, you won't be tricked.
Smart.
Right? Which is, at that time, candy corn first came out.
You either love it or you hate it.
Right? But it wasn't called candy corn back then.
What was it called?
Chicken feed.
Chicken feet.
Candy chicken feed.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because a lot of time back in the day, people would scatter corn for their chickens to eat.
Yep.
Yeah.
So at first, the candy wasn't these tiny little bars that we know today. In fact, the first Halloween-style candy was designed not for the consumer, but for the shopkeepers to convince them to promote candy in their stores around Halloween. Companies like Curtis, who used to make Baby Ruth and Butterfinger, Lifesavers, Beech Nut, would wrap whole candy boxes with Halloween-themed cellophane wrappers.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they didn't really quite get fully into it. There's like, let's take this normal box, we'll wrap it in some Halloween theme, and sell it.
Yep.
Which, honestly, I think is what they do today anyway.
Oh, yeah, they just say, oh, put a ghost on the front of the packaging.
The funny thing is the general public never saw the wrappers because they were always torn off before the candy reached the shelves.
Oh, that kind of sucks.
Right? So there were exceptions, though, because there were candy companies were already doing things for Valentine's Day and Easter. And so trick-or-treating eventually caught on.
Yeah.
So like Brock's, for example, was already advertising seasonal Halloween candy with jack-o'-lanterns and trick-or-treaters on the boxes as early as 1962. But for the most part, Halloween candy was no more ghastly and gross or ghoulish than it was at any other time of the year, except for 1964.
Do tell.
So in 1964, a Helen Fell of Greenland, New York, she was a housewife. She decided to do something truly ghoulish to the trick-or-treaters.
Uh-oh.
And hand out arsenic lace candy buttons.
What the heck?
Right? It was an attempt to teach local teenagers they were too old to be trick-or-treating.
That's, oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. Let's kill some kids. That'll teach them.
Oh my goodness.
Then, in November 2nd, 1970, 5-year-old Kevin Toston from Detroit died after eating what initially reported as heroin-laced Halloween candy, although it was later turned out that the heroin never came from the candy, but by that point, no one was paying attention. So the interesting thing, right, is people started worrying about these candies being poison.
Right.
And so people started turning to the candy makers for their candy. So it actually ended up being a good thing for the candy companies.
Of course, yeah.
So that's when they reacted. So the candy companies reacted by making fun-sized candy bars.
Nice.
So they were obviously, we all know what they are. But they realized, the candy companies realized it wasn't about the size. Really, it was just about the safety. So once they started doing that, they started taking artistic license with their candies and coming up with new and creative and fun things. So like the first ones that kind of came out was Rada, which they used to make, I think they still do, Marshmallow Peeps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which who didn't know that I didn't know that they were from they started in the 1970s. The Peeps did.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, they look like something from the 1970s.
They do. They're supposed to be really good if you open the bag and let them turn stale for a year.
A lot of people love them like that.
What if you had original bag from 1970? It would be 50 years old now.
Yeah, I wouldn't attempt it then. You'd break your teeth.
But they came out with witch mallows and cats and pumpkins.
Nice.
And then Topps, that's the baseball card company.
Yeah.
They came out with bubble gum shaped like a haunted house that you can hang on the inside of your front door so the candy inside could be easily handed out to kids.
Oh, that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the makers of Sugar Daddy came up with a bag of nugget-sized, individually wrapped treats that could be used as a hand puppet when empty.
Oh, creative.
Yeah, they were getting creative. So, and then in 1975, H.R. Nicholson, they're the maker of the drinkable candy that's in the wax packages.
Oh, the wax bottles.
Yeah, Nicolips is what they were called. Well, they came out with quaffable secretions of Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman, and they called the bottles Monsters Tears.
Oh, that's neat. That's fun.
Yeah. And then there was Mr. Bones, like those
Mr. Bones.
little pieces of fruit candy that came in a tiny black coffin that could be assembled to be an edible skeleton.
Yes, those are still around.
They are, aren't they?
Those ones are still around.
Those are neat. I think they do hard candies now, though, right?
They are hard candies,
Yeah.
yes. But they're like different colors, blues and yellows and oranges and stuff. And yeah, they come in a little coffin and you can put it together to make a skeleton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then-
those
then-
are still, I've
then
seen
eat it.
those and then eat it piece by piece
Piece by piece. Do you start with the head?
or the feet. I don't know.
Start at the top or the bottom? Or just all at once? Just one big
Cram them
bite?
in there.
Cram
Yeah.
them in there.
That might be dangerous.
So and then in the early 1980s, future Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist Art Spiegelman joined the chewing gum, candy, and card making company Topps and immediately revolutionized the candy shops by creating Garbage Pail Kids.
Who remembers Garbage Pail Kids? If you're an 80s baby or even into the early 90s really. But yeah, I remember those very well.
Yeah. So they had their own candy version for Garbage Pail Kids.
They did.
And that's when candy makers realized you could do more with Halloween than just seasonalizing the packagings. You can make really gross Halloween candy and sell it to the kids all year round.
Yeah.
So the crazy thing is that from there, the candy business has grown. And in 2011, the U.S. alone purchased $2.3 billion worth of Halloween candy.
Oh, that's crazy to think about, isn't it?
Oh, it's so crazy. So crazy.
A lot of moolah.
That's a lot of moolah.
Worth of candy.
So if we're going to talk about trick or treating, we're going to have to talk about the other side of that, the trick side.
Yes, let's get into the tricks.
Which, with the trick side of things, most of it was like, when it started, kids would do like a little song, a little dance, and that was to earn them their candy, because not everyone always dressed up. So they would do a little song and dance to kind of get their stuff, which after doing that for like 4 hours, you get kind of sick of it, right?
I would.
I mean, that would be, I don't know. I tried it once. I got one door and I'm like, I'm good. I dressed up. It was when I was in my early teens. So it was right at the edge of trick or treating, right?
Right.
And I don't know why we didn't get Halloween costumes that year. We just didn't. And so I went out trick or treating with my buddy who had a Halloween costume. And it's like, oh, you know what? We knocked on one door and they're like, you're not dressed up, trick. And so I did I can't remember what I did. It was a little soft shoe awfulness.
Oh, I've seen you dance. No.
I feel like that is just torture for those poor people.
I would be like, if I were those people, I'd be like, okay, for that, you owe me candy.
Right? And after that, I went and figured out something for a costume. It was a bad night, but I think that's the last time I ever went trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
But what some of the things that they used to do, if any of you have seen the 1944 film Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yeah, so this is a Judy Garland film. It's one of my favorites, in fact.
Yeah. And this is the film that actually made me want to do this episode, is because in 1903 is when it took place. These kids went up to this grumpy old man neighbor that they had, right? And they rang the doorbell. And when he answered the door, they threw flour in his face.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're dead.
Well, no, she throws flour in his face and she has to say, I hate you, Mr. I forget what his last name is.
Right.
Is what she has to say. And for the kids, they believe that by doing that killed him.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is they would take stuff out of their house and they had a bonfire in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And these are like 8, 9, 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
At the time.
They're not really old.
No.
No, but they throw everything on top of this fire and dance around this fire and going around throwing flour in adults' faces and people they don't like and telling them that they hate them, believing it would kill them.
Yeah.
They also used to stuff clothing, to like make a dummy.
Yeah.
So they'd stuff it with like leaves and stuff, and then they'd throw it in front of the trolley cars. That was kind of in the movie too.
Yeah, that is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
They're trying to like freak out the conductor.
Yeah. Thinking he ran over somebody.
Yeah, and that practice actually started back. There's a noted case in Newport, Kentucky, where that happened in 1879.
Oh, my.
Right? But what's interesting is that people were much more accepting of some of the pranks back then.
Different time.
Yeah, definitely a different time.
Mm-hmm. I think it was more, expected because they knew that that's what kids did for their, for the tricks for Halloween.
Yeah. But some of these, I don't know, they get kind of malicious.
They do. And, I honestly, if someone did some of these things today, it would not turn out good for them.
Yeah. Some of the things that they would do back in the later 1800s is they would go to a farmer's place and grab the wagons and sometimes the livestock and put them on the roof of the barn.
Oh, geez.
Imagine coming out and there's your big four-wheeled wagon sitting on top of the roof of your barn.
No. They
would uproot vegetables in the backyard gardens, tip over outhouses, whether they were occupied or not.
Gross.
In some regions, gates were taken off the hinges and allowed livestock to escape. So people started calling October 31st as Gate Night. Yeah, awful, right?
Well, I mean, not great for, especially, I know for the kids it's fun, but for the adults, to lose their animals because they've been set free, or to have your garden uprooted, and that's not good.
Yeah.
For like your squashes or whatever, your fall harvest.
Yeah, not good at all.
Yeah.
So there was one Protestant minister in Steubenville, Ohio, who awoke one Halloween to discover his front porch decorated with beer signs and towering pyramids of beer kegs. But it gets worse, though, because after the automobile comes around, right? People started removing manhole covers from the streets.
Oh, no.
Deflating tires, and even erecting fake detour signs to confuse motorists.
Oh, no. I mean, come on, there is some humor in that, but...
Right. Well, at first it was like limited to the rural areas. As people came more into the cities and the metropolitan areas expanded, they got more destructive.
Yeah, see, that's not good.
They started setting fires.
What?
Breaking glass and tripping pedestrians.
Oh, my word.
I know.
Okay, there's no humor in those ones. That's like the thug life there.
Right? So boys would run around through the streets splattering people with bags of flour or black stockings filled with ashes.
Oh, jeez.
And then one year, some kids in Kansas City decided to wax the streetcar tracks on a steep hill, causing the vehicle to slip and crash into another streetcar, and that ended up seriously hurting the conductor.
Yeah, see, that's way too far.
Yeah, that takes it a long, like way outside of...
There's those, innocent little tricks where nobody gets hurt, right?
Yep.
Maybe a little inconvenient, but nobody gets hurt. And then there's those ones where you put people's lives in danger, and that's, setting fires and tripping people.
Yeah. So,
that's not good. Breaking glass? Come on.
So in 1902...
We call those riots today, by the way.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's more riot-like.
That's what it sounds like. Well, like when people riot, it's the breaking of glass, the setting of fires, and just the destruction, and it's awful.
So the Cook County Herald had a good idea in 1902, because there was some people in Arlington Heights, Illinois, that were having problems with this type of destruction, right? It said, most everybody enjoys a joke or fun to a proper degree on a suitable occasion. But when property is damaged or destroyed, it is time to call a halt.
Yep.
We would advise the public to load their muskets or cannon with rock, salt, or birdshot.
Oh my. And
when trespassers invade your premises at unseemly hours upon mischief bent, pepper them good and proper so they will be effectually cured and have no further taste for such tricks.
Wow.
Your cannon.
Cannon. Let's load the cannon up here, dear. It's Halloween night.
I mean, that's awful.
Wow.
But in some cases, things turn a little fatal.
No, that's never good.
No. So pranksters in Tucson, Arizona stretched a wire across the sidewalk to trip passersby in 1907. But one pedestrian was thrown to the ground. He drew his revolver and shot one of the jokesters.
Oh, dang. It was just a matter of time.
Right? And then unfortunately, the same year, a woman in Indiana was literally scared to death when her heart stopped after her daughter answered a knock at the door and screamed when a group of boys thrust a grinning pumpkin lantern in her face.
Oh, jeez.
And honestly, the list of insanity and meanness goes a long ways. And we'll move forward a little bit to the 1970s and 80s when arsonists turned the Detroit night sky a Halloween orange by setting fire to trash cans, dumpsters, and abandoned buildings. The destruction peaked in 1984 when more than 800 fires were set across the city in a 3-night arson spree.
That is crazy.
So Detroit said, fine, we're going to put dusk to dawn curfews for the unaccompanied adults under 18 and mobilize a city watch.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, those are definitely the bad side of Halloween pranks.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely stick to the lighthearted where you're not destroying someone's property or physically harming them, Just don't. My goodness.
So speaking of pranks.
Yes.
Did you ever pull any pranks when you were a youth?
Just like for Halloween or just in general?
Halloween. Did you engage in any Halloween prankery?
For Halloween, no. I mean, so my best Halloween years, age-wise, were spent in Alaska. Well, I mean, you can imagine end of October in Alaska, right? I mean, yeah, I had these cute costumes every year, but
did anybody ever see them?
No, because you had to wear snow pants and, what we called moon boots and, and warm jackets and hats and gloves. So, I mean...
Yeah, that was trick-or-treating where you might get dropped off at the end of the block, hit all the houses as your parents follow in their car.
Yeah, and then you jump in to go to the next street.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that.
I remember doing that in North Dakota as a kid.
So, yeah. So who's going to play pranks then? Not me.
Yeah.
It's just too cold. You go about your business, right? Your goal is to go out and get as much candy as you can without freezing to death.
Most of the times pranks are held by the older kids.
Teenagers. Preteens.
Yeah. Did that ever happen? Did you ever engage in any of that stuff as a teen?
So when I quit going trick-or-treating, my brother and I decorated the front of the house. We went underneath the porch and we put green Christmas lights, right? And then we put dry ice all over the underside of the porch in little things of water. So it would steam and the smoke would come up and then it was like a green glow because of the lights.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
So we did that under the porch, right? And then in the window of the front of the house, we put a stereo. My brother had a stereo system. And we had a spooky, cassette, not CD, not, with spooky sounds, right?
Yeah.
And music. And in the front driver's seat of his pickup truck, we dressed up, we just took an old flannel shirt, long sleeve flannel winter shirt.
Yeah.
And we rolled up towels for the arms and a pillow for the body and buttoned it up. And then we took a balloon and inflated it and put it in a skeleton mask that had long white stringy hair.
Oh, that's cool.
And then put a hat on it, kind of like an Indiana Jones hat.
Yeah.
On it. And then in his hand, he had a whip. So we did paper mache hands and then we put rubber cement glue on it, make it look all slimy and gross coming out of the rocks in the driveway.
That's cool. So you really guys did up the house for Halloween.
Yes. So we were known as the Halloween house in our area at that time because we did so much.
That's cool.
So the only trick that I ever did was I had teased my hair. I had longer hair and I teased it. So, I mean, it was ratty and it just looked like I got electrocuted. It was just all over, right?
Right.
And I just put on some old ripped clothes and there was a cinder block that was kind of sitting out in our driveway and I just stood on it and I held real still. And so a lot of the kids coming up to the door didn't know if I was a prop or a real person.
Nice.
And they called me Chicken Lady because of the way my hair was. It was just all over the place. And I got a couple of them pretty good. Yeah.
That's
I got
cool.
one kid who fell on the ground because I scared him. And I didn't really do much either because, see, I'm just posed on this cinder block, holding still. And he's like, is it real? And he's like, no, that's fake. It's fake. It's just a prop. It's fake. And then I just kind of turned and went bent over towards him.
Yeah.
And he just kind of whoop right on the ground. Oh my gosh. So, but that's really the only prank. What about you?
Well, let's just say growing up at that time when I was a teenager, eggs were $0.25 a dozen.
Oh, jeez. You didn't.
Yeah, we'll say I did it. Yeah.
Now, was that like you and friends, or was that just you?
Oh no, that was me and friends.
Okay.
I was the thrower.
Jeez.
We won't get into that too much.
Yeah, please don't.
But, we never TP'd anything, which is interesting because that was also a very common occurrence, is to TP someone's house or trees at least.
Usually the trees.
Yeah.
A lot
or
of
bushes.
Times. Yeah. Trees or bushes. Yeah. Yeah. I really don't know a lot of people that do Halloween pranks like that, especially
not anymore.
Not today, right? Not in today's society. It's not to say it doesn't happen maybe in smaller towns and stuff, but
yeah,
I think a lot, for the most part, that's just kind of right now, it's trunk or treats has been a big thing for a long time.
Yep.
Which I think in a lot of cases and in a lot of ways is great, especially for really little kids, right? Like real little kids.
Yeah.
Young. But I also think it's a shame because I think we're losing a lot of the door-to-door aspect of it.
We are. And honestly, that was a lot of the fun of Halloween, was going door to door.
Yeah.
But I think in a way, right, that makes a change because more and more people are now having kind of Halloween parties.
Yes.
Where they'll have it on Halloween or really close to it. So one of the things that people used to do at their Halloween parties was fortune telling games.
They did. So, and they had a variety of them, right? Yeah. And I don't think any of them were taken too seriously. It's kind of like that. I remember in school we used to play that game. You make the little thing out of paper and it had numbers on it.
Yeah.
And, this is your, this is.
Sometimes it was like we did some things with jobs or like who you were going to marry.
Who you're going to marry, or what kind of money you're going to make, how many kids you're going to have.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
So I think these are a lot like those.
Yeah.
For those reasons, but nobody really took them seriously. So one of these games was called the Apple Peel Halloween game. So Apple Peel Halloween game. Okay. So the idea was apple peeling was kind of like a community-wide endeavor in New England.
Okay. I'm sure if you got like hundreds of apples or thousands of apples.
Sure. You're making apple pie, you're canning, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it was just a thing that the community did. And so a young single woman, the idea is that she would peel an apple in one long strand. Okay. And then when she's done that, she tosses the peel over her shoulder. And if the peel landed in the shape of a letter, that was supposedly her future husband's initial.
There aren't a lot of peels in the shape of S's.
Not necessarily, because if you're peeling in a circle, right, and you throw it over your shoulder, just depend on how it's landing.
I suppose that's true.
Right? So playing apple peel on Halloween is an old practice, and usually for the young girls and women, and the purpose is to know the initials of their lover or future spouse. It also keeps them interested in their work while they were preparing Halloween feasts as they play along and look for their fortunes and then share their secret desires or chuckles.
That's kind of fun.
That one could be fun, right?
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't have to necessarily be geared towards who you're going to marry. It could be, I'm sure you could find other things to,
Well, they did bring in the word lover in there.
Right.
Which would not necessarily talk about marriage.
Okay, well, we're not getting into that. So there's also one called the apple seed test. So they like their apples.
I think it really goes hand in hand because apple harvest is around this time of year in the spooky season.
Yeah. But they have, there's this chart, right? And it's tell fortunes with apple seeds. Okay, and you count the seeds and then, that are in your apple.
Yeah.
So however many seeds you have, you count those up and then they have a chart. So if it's one seed, you're a rich man.
Wow. That's probably very rare because I'm sure there's not a lot of apples with just a single seed in it.
Right? If it's 2 seeds, then that means you're a poor man. If it's 3, you're a beggar man. If it's 4, you're a thief. If it's 5, you're a doctor. If it's 6, you're a lawyer. If it's 7, you'd be a merchant. And then, and this is kind of weird, if it's 9, it says you'd be a rich man as well. And it just kind of repeats, right?
Interesting.
So 9, you would start over and it'd be rich man, and 10 would be poor man. So that was another way. That was another thing that they did.
Yeah.
It is. It's interesting, right? It's different.
It is different.
And speaking of apples, what happened to bobbing for apples?
Oh, we'll talk about that here.
Okay. So another one is blowing out candles. Okay.
Well, there was one more seed game they used to play.
Okay.
They would take 2 apple seeds.
Okay.
And they would give each one a name. Like, this is for Frank, right? And this is for Jim. People they knew, right?
Right.
And they would stick them to their forehead.
Okay.
Right? And the one that falls
Mm-hmm.
is the one that you're supposed to marry.
See, now I would think it was the one that was left sticking.
Right.
Meaning
Maybe
it
it was played both ways.
It could be. Maybe it just depends on,
But I mean, yeah, you're just sitting there peeling apples. Let me stick these 2 to my head and see which one falls.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So another one's called blowing out candles. And so for this one, you need 3 candles. Okay.
Okay.
You're going to need 1 pink, you're going to need 1 green, and 1 orange. And you're also going to need a blindfold. So if you blow out the pink candle, it indicates that you love, or it indicates like love and romance lie ahead for you.
Right.
The green candle would mean that the person will receive money, and then the orange candle means the player will be going on a trip.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure how they do that though.
Well, I'm guessing the way I understand what I would think that they would do is they'd blindfold someone to put them at a table, right? They would light 3 candles, put them in some random position on the table, and then they would have to pick which one to blow out and then blow out a candle.
Yeah, but if they're blindfolded and they're too close together, could you not blow out more than one?
You could. That's
what I mean by it doesn't really specify how.
Right.
Just what the candle stood for.
Yeah. If you blew out all 3 in one blow, then you'd be rich, in love, and going on a trip.
Hey, there you go. You want to do all 3.
Right.
So another one is called Meet Your Fate.
That sounds gruesome.
It doesn't sound good, right?
No.
But so it's a highly preferred fortune-telling game that was played on Halloween. And different things implying forecasts about a person's life are hidden inside the cake. And the participants are supposed to take a bite of the cake. And his or her fate is determined by what is contained in their bite of cake.
Okay. So they bake little trinkets inside of a cake.
They must. It actually doesn't say.
Well, and that's when you get, poor Jimmy takes a bite of cake and chokes on his trinket and dies. And then that it was not a smart move.
Yeah. And then, of course, you got the cards.
Yeah. The tarot cards.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people are familiar with them, even if, I've never played with tarot cards, right?
Yeah.
I have never been interested. I don't play with them. I don't deal with them. I just don't. But I know what they are.
Yeah.
So I think we're all pretty familiar with,
Yeah. Pretty familiar with those. I had a reading done once.
Did you?
When I was younger, yeah.
How'd it turn out?
Vague.
Well, that's the problem,
Yeah. It's like, it was like, what you're looking for will happen within the next year. It's like, well, that's pretty vague.
Yeah, because within a year, something could happen that you were waiting for, and you could be like, oh, this is what, they were right.
Yeah, when I got done with it, I realized that it was a bunch of hocus pocus, and I was like, this is good. I'm good. You mentioned bobbing apples earlier.
I did.
So, yeah, it was a staple of Halloween parties for a long time. Its origins, though, are interesting. They're rooted in love and romance. So the game traces back to a courting ritual that was part of a Roman festival honoring Pomona, the goddess of agriculture and abundance. While multiple versions exist, the gist was that a young man and woman will be able to predict their future relationships based on the game. So when the Romans conquered British Isles in 43 AD, the Pomona festival blended with the similarly timed Samhain, and bobbing for apples on Halloween was born.
Interesting.
Which I think, honestly, it's not done anymore.
No.
Because if you get down to it, it's kind of gross.
Unless you're the very first one to go.
Yeah, but everybody after you is sticking their face in the faces of everybody before them.
And their spit and whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I know when I was younger at school carnivals, they would tie apples from string.
Yeah, and hang them.
And then you picked your apple that you wanted to try and get a hold of. And then, once you did or didn't, they took that apple down.
Yeah.
And gave it to you to actually just eat.
Yeah.
And I've also seen where they've done that with donuts. They tie them from a string.
Now that's a game I think we all can get behind. Bobbing for donuts.
Yeah. They just tie a donut from a string and you got to try and grab it.
Yum.
But I mean, wouldn't that be kind of easy though to do?
It'd be way easy to do. Unless you were blindfolded, then that would be a lot harder.
Yeah. Maybe that's the trick, huh?
Yeah. Or maybe we just tie them and let people eat donuts because let's face it.
In a fun way, in a different way.
Yeah, because we like donuts. So one of the other traditions that people had, right, was because people believed that spirits were walking the earth at the time during Samhain, right? People would, claim to be seeing ghosts at that time of year.
Right.
Which is honestly a tradition that we all still kind of follow today, especially in the world of the paranormal.
Well, yeah, because we think that's when the veil between the two worlds is the thinnest.
Right. And so everybody has, at least, especially in Utah, right? October is full of investigations, public investigations
Yeah.
During the month of October. And in fact, last year we held ours 3 days before Halloween.
We did. That was our first one.
It was.
And then this year we did it on Friday the 13th here in October.
Yeah, which was amazing.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So I like that. I mean, we kind of like that tradition just because it's, part of our jam, just being part of paranormal investigators. It would be interesting, though, to try to hold one on the 31st of October.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people would actually turn out for that. I mean, a lot of people are going to parties
or just taking their kids out trick-or-treating.
Right. And it just depends, honestly, on what day it falls on as well.
Yes.
For a lot of people.
Yeah. So we covered a lot of traditions in the U.S., but what are some traditions that they hold overseas?
Well, so Scotland.
They got to have some fun stuff.
Right? I would think so.
Yeah.
So it basically says Halloween traces its roots to Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And the history of it can be dated back 3,000 years. So the pagan Celts observed this holiday as a transition from one year into the next. And it is known as Samhain, right?
Yep.
In Scotland and Ireland. So, which was a way of warding off ghosts that may want to haunt the people.
So it's almost a way of protecting your house.
So, yeah, and the Celtic New Year is actually still observed in the United Kingdom. So you can travel there and experience the Samhain Fire Festival. And it's held actually in Scotland every 31st in October.
Okay. That
would be cool.
That would be amazing.
So the event actually features a popular costume performance function on the Edinburgh streets. So.
Oh, Edinburgh.
It says Edinburgh.
Oh, Edinburgh. Well, yeah, I'm really bad with places over there. Not gonna lie.
Okay. So in remote locations, a bonfire is lit like in the old days, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Right. And people from all over the country convene in their neighborhoods with costumes, which is, I think that'd be really cool. Like young and old alike, not just for the young to dress up, but I think it would be really neat for the adults too.
Yeah. So basically it's a public bonfire.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Like your neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
So they usually actually spend the evenings trick-or-treating, and then they attend parties with their friends, and they have treasure hunts, games, and then traditional food.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Next year in Scotland.
That would be actually amazing.
It would be amazing.
It would be amazing. So, and of course in Mexico.
Yeah.
Right?
Dia de los Muertos.
Yep. So, or as we know it, Day of the Dead. And it's actually a 3-day celebration that's observed from October 31st till the 2nd of November.
So it kind of covers both Halloween and All Saints Day.
Yeah. So the first day is actually devoted to departed kids.
Oh.
Yeah. Also known as angelitos or little angels. That's sad.
That is sad.
So, and then the second day is usually dedicated to the dead. So
your relatives that have passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the first day is, devoted to kids.
Yeah.
But during Halloween, makeshift altars are typically built to commemorate the deceased, like your family members and such. And then these altars are adorned with like toys, candy, other delicacies for children, and decorated with booze and stuff for the adults.
That's right. Make sure you got whiskey on my altar.
Yes. And they actually also adorn the altars with items of like substantial meaning to the person who has passed. So that's, I mean, that would make sense, right?
That'd make total sense.
And Mexican marigold. So marigold was believed to guide the ghosts of the dead to their offering. So to kind of bring them to
Right.
their offering. So the people there also eat pan de muerto, or bread of the dead. So dress skeletons in colorful and amusing costumes, and then later they take the party to the community cemeteries in the nighttime.
I'm down for that. Like a nighttime cemetery party.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. The one thing I like about that festival, it's less about candy and scaring people and the spooky side of things, and it's more a time of remembrance for those who have already passed on.
Yes. Yeah. And again, because the veil's at the thinnest, right?
Yep.
For the kind of two worlds to collide a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in China, they have a festival known as the Hungry Ghost Festival. And this one's usually actually observed on the 15th day and the 7th lunar moon.
Okay. So that may or may not be coinciding with October.
Well, not like we do.
Right.
I suppose, right?
But I think that falls along, because we talked earlier about Japanese ghost stories, that fell in the summer months. So that might actually fall in the same time frame as the Japanese traditions.
But locals will place food and water on photos of their deceased relatives and then light floating water lanterns, which are supposed to guide the spirits that are drifting around the world. They also light up money, cars, houses, phones, and many more things because the thought is that it appeases the spirits of those that have departed. Okay. So just like, flood it with light and
right. Again, that's really neat though, because again, it's more focusing on those who have passed on.
Right. So then they have in Haiti, a lot of festivals, right?
Yeah.
So in Haiti, there's another festival and it's called Feast of the Dead. It's a version of Halloween that is celebrated on the 1st and 2nd day of November.
Okay, so in line with All Hallows Eve.
Yes. So, and on the commemoration day, the Haitians pay homage to Baron Samedi. So he's the Vendan god of death and the father of the spirit of the dead.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. So kind of the Haiti people who like stick to voodoo and believe that they have been possessed by the spirits of the dead.
Yeah.
So they view him as a god of wisdom.
Oh, okay. That makes me think of Princess and the Frog.
Yep, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you're thinking of like the voodoo aspect of it.
Yeah, well, because
right?
remember the voodoo guy at the end, he gets taken out
by the shadows.
By the voodoo god.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch that.
Right? You're like, I don't quite remember that one.
So they believe that this god has great leadership qualities that will actually protect their children. And they also believe that he is the last resort for people who are very sick. Yeah. So, but their celebration is, it features wild parties with extreme dancing in the streets. They also drink and shower themselves with raw rum spiked with chilies.
Shower themselves with it.
Yeah, drink and shower.
Ooh, a little chili in the eye would...
Don't get that in your eyes. Ooh, yeah.
Ouch. The alcohol alone will burn, and then you add chilies to it. Yikes.
So then we have like Nepal. Okay. So it's there's an ancient holiday in Nepal known as, oh my gosh, Jia Jatra.
Perfect.
Anyways, I butchered that and I am so sorry. It means cow festival, and it's observed in late summer to honor the friends and family members who have recently died. So, and it is believed that cows help the dead navigate the spirit world. So in modern day society, the children will actually dress as cows and then march in a procession. They play music, they have food, comedy, face painting, and very intricate costumes.
I know. That sounds like a lot of fun still.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, there's so many out here, like in Poland, and I mean, it's actually quite extensive.
So it's a lot of countries celebrating the dead.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously that's the common thing here, right?
Yep.
Because they're celebrating the departed.
Yeah. And what's interesting is because where ours comes from, where the US has come from, because it comes from Scotland and Ireland and
Mhm.
that. And they're really celebrating the changing of the seasons,
Yes.
the harvest time where everything starts to die off. That's really the kind of the celebration there. A lot of other countries celebrate their departed.
Yeah.
So that's really neat.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about all this,
Yeah.
what are some traditions that we do today besides trick-or-treating, besides the obvious, besides the, I mean, like you said, for us as a paranormal team and a podcast team, we have our Halloween event,
Yep. We have
which has already come and gone, right?
Yes, which was amazing.
It was amazing. We decorate here at home.
Well, the other one we do too, we haven't talked about it really, is the haunted house aspect of things.
That's true. A lot of people gravitate towards haunted houses.
Yes, and we have several here in Utah that are very popular. Asylum 49 being one of them,
Mhm.
Fear Factory another, and I know there's other ones out there. Those are just the two that I
Most
know
familiar
offhand.
with, yeah.
Yeah, mainly because we've investigated both of those places.
We have.
But yeah, people like to be scared, and so we've taken into this time of being scared on things,
Mhm.
right? Disneyland, Disney World, Universal Studios, Knott's Berry Farm, even Silverwood.
Yeah.
They transform all of these places into these horror festivals,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that Halloween time, October becomes scary movie time.
Yeah, I mean, and we watch some movies, so we're not really into the really scary movies.
The slasher flicks.
I'm not into the blood and the guts and the jump scares. I'm more into the creepy,
The suspenseful.
the suspenseful.
The others.
Or the comedic, of course, because we watch Beetlejuice and
Ghostbusters.
and yeah, so Corpse Bride.
Yep.
I mean, I even watched The Goonies. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I love The Goonies no matter what time of year it is, but I like the adventurous, suspenseful things.
Yeah.
Like The Forest. That's a pretty good one.
That is a good one.
I mean, it's,
It's more suspense and ominous than blood, guts, and gore.
yeah, I'm just not into the blood, guts, and gore, even for what we do, and where we go on paranormal investigations and stuff. I'm not into all that.
Yeah.
I like the creepy.
But that definitely has been part of our culture's
Yes.
Halloween time.
Yeah. Or, decorate. What lengths do people go anymore to decorate? Like, we have a house just a block down.
We call it the Halloween house.
We call it the Halloween house because it has by far it's got like this mass amount of, of decorations. It's got the big dragon from Home Depot. It's got the winged demon from Home Depot. It's got the big, what is it? 12-foot skeleton from Home Depot.
I think they work at Home Depot, or they just have like stock in Home Depot.
Yeah, I mean, but it's nice, and I'm sure they go through a lot of trouble to do it. And because we've driven by and seen, because we get some pretty good wind through here.
Yeah.
And so we've seen a lot of it blown over, and some things they've taken down completely, I noticed.
I think they rotate at times. That is how much stuff they have. I mean, think about like people go all out for Christmas displays.
Mm-hmm.
These individuals go all out for Halloween.
Yeah, and it's really awesome to see.
It is awesome. And that's the one thing I wish more people did, was I wish more people would decorate for Halloween. I think what we're seeing though at times is because of everyone doing these trunk or treat things,
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing a decrease in trick or treating and people decorating for Halloween.
Well, and that's kind of my point, is I think trunk or treat is great for a lot of reasons, and especially for the really little ones, and the families with really little kids.
Super easy.
I think it's
Get it done.
great. I think it's great. It's a safer way. I get all that, but I also think that because trunk or treat has kind of taken over everything, we have lost a lot of people that decorate their homes and all these other things. I think that it's kind of done us a disservice in a way too.
Yeah.
I think there's pros and cons to it.
I agree. I think part of it, I know like there's so much money to be had in Halloween. Obviously, we talked about the billions of dollars in just candy alone.
Yeah.
But you have costumes, the Halloween pop-up shops, all of these things that happen around Halloween.
Yeah.
But what ends up, I think, in a way, starting to destroy some of it as well, is the fact that this stuff shows up in June.
Well, the first I've seen it is July this year. It hit in July.
It really hit in
It
July.
hit in stores. It hit in like Disneyland. I mean, I think it's. I know that there's people that love it year round, and more power to you.
And we're of that mindset. We love Halloween most of the year.
But I've just noticed that in stores and everything's coming out earlier and earlier every single year. And so it's all one's bleeding into the next. And
Yes.
it doesn't feel like Halloween gets its own time slot before
Christmas
is rolling in. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
Disneyland is a big part. They're guilty of that too, because they started carrying Halloween stuff really early.
A month ahead of time.
No.
Oh, the August.
It was in August.
Yeah, beginning
Disney
of August.
World started in August.
Yeah.
Disneyland started end of August, early September, more in September, I think. But still, the thing is, and I know Josh and I went to Disney last year in September, and it was during their big Halloween stuff, right?
Right.
We go there, and almost all their Halloween stuff in the early part of September was sold out.
Yeah. Which it does make it a problem, right? Because now, and this started happening a month ago, right? You go into Costco's and you go into these stores, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's September, it's September.
It was September.
It's September, and there's Christmas stuff up, and the Halloween stuff is almost gone. It's like, wait, I'm just starting to think about Halloween. Why is my stuff gone?
It's gone. Yeah.
And it's like, and to your point, yeah, we're starting to shift everything to the side because it's a consumerism mindset.
I know.
And that becomes, in a way, the degradation of the holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're doing it more and more in this country. And it's really sad to see.
Yeah.
It's just, I think we've lost a lot by doing things like that.
We have. But I think there's still people who still carry the banner, still carry the torch for Halloween.
Darn tootin'.
And, we always, decorate at least something for Halloween.
Yes.
It varies year to year.
Yeah.
And part of it's just because, people get busy.
Oh, yeah. And we've had a busy October.
We have. And so putting up decorations does take time. And it's like, wow, do I really want to do it for one night of the year?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but you should. Yeah. And maybe the part of the thing is we should start decorating for Halloween in September.
Yeah. Enjoy it for a couple months versus just one. But, for me, it's bothersome when it starts in July.
Yeah, it's too early.
I mean, we're in a summer and, we're just getting over 4th of July. And then right after 4th of July, it seems like
Halloween
got puked up all over in the stores.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to see, but we did decorate though. We did decorate. Unfortunately, because we rent where we're at, we're not allowed to decorate.
We're not allowed to go hog wild because if we were, we would.
Oh, trust me, we would. So we can decorate our little front patio.
Yeah.
Which you cannot see from the street because it's facing
a fence.
It's weird.
Makes it sad.
It's kind of weird how it's set up, but we're allowed to decorate that.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if we've decided if we're going to or not.
We are.
Okay. So we are.
We are.
But we did do decorations in here. I have a 6-foot witch that's up on a coffee table that's really cool in the corner of our living room. We have the creeper dude who's awesome looking.
Who will be making an appearance on our deck for Halloween?
On our patio.
Yeah.
Our front patio. He sits in a rocking chair and he kind of looks side to side and blinks. And he's really cool.
Yes, he looks very happy.
Yeah, he's very happy. I have a hutch full of Halloween stuff, and I have a skull wearing a witch's hat on the top of the hutch, and bones laying around, and we have a dragon skull. Well, dragon skeleton, the whole thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff. So let's talk cookie of the episode.
Oh, I almost forgot. Yeah, cookie of the episode.
This cookie is old enough to be a soul cake.
It is. So this recipe is 150 years old, really. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's an old one.
That is an oldie, but a goodie, honestly.
It is good. It is good. So this is real simple. It's 3 ingredients, guys. 3 ingredients that you probably have in your house.
And 2 of them are like the best ingredients.
Yes, butter and sugar.
Exactly. Brown sugar.
Yes. So it's butter and it's brown sugar and it's self-rising flour. Now, I didn't have self-rising flour when I made these. So I just use regular flour. So they're not as fluffy, but the taste is reminiscent of almost like toffee.
Yeah. The sugar starts to caramelize enough.
Yes.
That
And the
get
butter.
This,
yes.
You get this toffee flavor to it.
It's
amazing.
It's not overly sweet. It's simple. It's a pretty quick cookie to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bake it at 300 degrees for 20 minutes.
Which is long for a cookie.
It's long, but it's a lower temperature.
Yeah.
But I baked the first batch I baked for 20 minutes and it was very crispy. So they are very crunchy. They were thin and crunchy, but wonderful.
Very, very good.
And then I baked the next batch for I think it was
12 minutes.
I think it was 12 minutes. And while the flavor is still good, the texture is different. And it was still very good, though. It has more of a chewy texture.
Which, honestly, I like the crispy, crunchy toffee flavor better than the other one.
I did, too. And let me tell you that the really crispy one would be great crushed over some vanilla ice cream.
Or just using it to scoop vanilla ice cream.
Well, if it doesn't break, but yes.
Yeah, one of the two.
But it is good. We will be posting. I'll post the recipe.
Yeah, and we'll post it. We'll post them on our socials.
And some pictures of the ones we made.
And the deliciousness of them.
Yes, they were good. They are gone already.
That's not surprising. One, you didn't make a ton. And two, they're really good. I think I had 8 of them.
Oh, so you've had about half of them yourself.
I'm pretty sure I did. They're that good, people. They are just that good.
They are good. They're very good. But, feel free to let us know some of your Halloween traditions in your family.
Yeah. What is it that you guys do to celebrate Halloween? And what are the things that you used to do to celebrate Halloween?
Yeah.
Because times have changed. It's different from when we were younger to the way it is now.
Yeah.
Trunk or treat didn't exist when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
But, you'd go out on Halloween and there would be just lines of people out trick-or-treating. And you'd go through, a 13 or 30 gallon bag of candy.
Some neighborhoods are still like that.
Yeah.
Where my dad used to live, boy, I mean, they almost had to buy stocking candy, it seemed like, because they bought so many of those big Costco bags of candy and they would still run out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just this big thing in their neighborhood, which is just amazing. And I wish it was still that way. I really do. We live in a neighborhood where there's quite a few kids.
There are.
But we don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters.
I think it varies. I think the issue we had last year with Halloween was it was on a Sunday, which for most people, they're like, why does that matter? Well, it matters because in Utah, Sunday is family day.
It's a day of rest.
It's a day of rest. It's a day that people don't generally go out and do things. They spend it with their family. It's a very good, wholesome tradition.
Yeah.
So when Halloween falls on Sunday, trick-or-treating
they would
happens,
typically do it Saturday.
Yes, on Saturday.
The night before.
And so that changes the volume of kids. Now, I know we got kids both days.
We did.
The same kids both days.
Yes, we did.
So,
which I was perfectly fine with because even at the end of all that, we were left with so much dang candy.
So much. That's because the year before we ran out.
Yeah.
So it varies, right? And so I think that's part of it. As neighborhoods age, I think you get less. And so it's being in that neighborhood with a bunch of young kids.
Yeah.
That's when you get inundated with candy.
Candy
corn. We just want to say thank you to all of our listeners out there. We super appreciate all of you. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe and rate our podcast wherever you're listening. It does help us with our numbers and help us in the algorithm so more people get to listen to our wonderful podcast.
Absolutely. And if you have any ideas or stories of experiences you've had, or if you just want to tell us about your Halloween traditions, we'd love to hear from you. So yeah, just send us an email and let us know, and we can share it on the air in a future episode for sure. Yeah.
Or hit us up on socials.
Yeah.
We're always available.
So, and if we didn't see any of you at this year's Halloween event that we held, hopefully we will see you next year.
Absolutely. And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps. Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps Podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.